To our presentation. For the themes and perspectives in international development and educational film, we have chosen to cover the research question, how does poverty affect early years education in Kenya? Every child all over the world deserves the very best education that we as a collective can give them. However, living in extreme poverty has a huge effect on this, especially early years education, which is why this film will be focusing on how poverty affects this stage of a child's life. However, we'll be looking into Kenya more specifically and how their government are trying to combat the effects that it has on a child now and how it affects them later on in life. This film will include 4 very specific objectives, which include understanding the context of issues through reliable facts and figures. This will include statistics about poverty and early years education, not just in Kenya, but globally. Examine some of the barriers that poverty has on early childhood education. Here we'll be looking into specific home lives and how your socio-economic status affects a child's education, specifically in Kenya. Then we'll be looking into new schemes that the Kenyan government have put in place to combat an early childhood learning issues that there may be. Here we will be evaluating the benefits and limitations of such programs. And lastly, we will be considering any future plans to help control the rising poverty levels all over the world and how to stop it being an issue for young children getting the education they rightfully deserve. The most recent poverty data from the World Bank specifies that 36% of the Kenyan population are living beneath the poverty line. The damaging effects of deprivation and poverty in early years has severe complications that can last a lifetime. In sub-Saharan Africa, there is an expected additional 26 million people living below the poverty line due to the pandemic. In 2015, there was a report that 10% of the global population, which is equivalent to around 734 million people, live on less than £2 a day. Almost 1.13 million children of primary school age are out of school in Kenya, according to a study conducted in 2020. The situation has worsened due to the impact of COVID-19, due to school closures and the higher poverty levels.
Due to increased poverty levels in Kenya, the government funding in early childhood education is minimal. While the government provides provision for the expansion of curriculum materials for program coordinators, its funding for education per child per year is usually $1. In response to this, early childhood education is funded primarily through donations from local and international organisations, including the World Bank, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, and the Khan Foundation. Recent changes in the social landscapes and poverty levels motivated women to work more outside of their homes, which ultimately increased migration from rural to urban areas. Joining this line of work enabled Kenyan women to experience greater economic freedom. However, through this, many families experienced a rearrangement of family support schemes that had conventionally provided childcare services. For example, women who previously may have offered support in early childcare services were now no longer available. This ultimately led to an increased demand for formal childcare programs and led to the development of various preschool programs within Kenya. Jomo Kenyatta's post-independence government began to establish an education system for its youth that reflected the importance of nation building, which focuses on better ethics and social policies. However, through this initial stage, Kenya was not as successful as Ghana at promoting human rights and democratic values through schooling. British colonial education system that existed in their country at the time, where they recommended schools should focus more on social values that included nationhood, promotion of national unity, social equality, social obligation and responsibility. In the 1970s, the National Committee on Educational Objectives and Policies changes focus and began to redefine Kenya's ethical values in response to public concern about corruption, nepotism, tribalism and idleness due to the lack of supporting moral and civics education. Furthermore, in 2002, the National Rainbow Coalition government took on the Education for All programme, which outlined that the Kenyan educational planners should make education more flexible. There should be a sound reason for pastoralists not to recognise education as a way of investing in options for income. Public policy should develop effective ways to challenge existing attitudes and focus on efforts on raising the enrolment levels of pastoralist children, especially girls. Through this Education for All programme, free primary school education, including early years, was able to be reintroduced in 2003 and successfully raised enrolment rates by 17.6%. The overall importance of early childhood education within Kenya is teaching children the importance of ethical and social understanding to further benefit the agricultural community.
Tayari is a 4-year early childhood educational programme which is funded by the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. This programme is implemented to achieve emotional, social, physical and mental readiness in children aged 3 to 6 to start school. The Tayari model is used in preschools all over the country and benefits over 75,000 children in over 1,500 early years childhood educational centres across Kenya. This scheme was funded to be the most low-cost way for families to send their children to preschool and to get a great education for cheaper. However, during a study conducted in 2018, they found that each school setting received a block grant which they would use to benefit their schools. However, members of county assemblies have the final say in deciding how much money is spent on different sectors within the schools, which may negatively impact what they see as less important, such as softer subjects that aren't taken as seriously in the curriculum. Tayari consists of 4 key components. These include interactive teacher training, child health interventions, child-centred teaching and learning materials, and ICT teaching support. Around 4,700 teachers have been trained due to the Tayari programme, with additional individuals being trained as coaches and early educational coordinators, therefore giving teachers the best support to give children the best education they can. The child health interventions actually include teaching the children about hygiene and helping improve key health aspects, such as hand washing and making sure every child has access to clean drinking water. In over 2,000 schools, every child under this programme has been given low-cost workbooks and every teacher has been given teaching guidebooks. The activities in these have been developed to match the lessons and subjects drawn out in the official curriculum used in Kenya. Using ICT to support in-classroom monitoring has been hugely efficient to early year coordinators, as they can give instant feedback on what went well within the lesson and what could be better. More than this, using the online features of the tool, they are able to communicate with different classrooms and observers to compare benefits and limitations of the lessons and subjects.
In Kenya, over 1 million individuals work in sustainable off-farm rural institutions. The vocational school fallacy is a key part of Kenya's education system, with over 30,000 polytechnic trainees in primary schools. In the early 1980s, it was stated by the ILO's Job and Skills Programme for Africa that attention should be directed towards agriculturally or rural-orientated school activity and curriculum content as a means of stemming rural-urban migration, as well as increasing agricultural productivity in the long run. This is due to Western Kenya being an area of heavy out-migration, where most households are dependent on the income of male migrants who work elsewhere in Kenya as a part of polytechnics, for example. To conclude, when understanding the context of poverty in Kenya, we have gained the knowledge that 36% of Kenyan individuals are living below the poverty line. Consequently, 1.13 million children aged 6 to 13 are not enrolled in schools. This is partly due to the global pandemic, which has affected employment rates and school closures. When examining poverty in Kenya, we have found key barriers that have greatly affected early years education. Some of these include low standards of teaching caused by low funding from the government, restricted budgeting within schools, leading to lack of materials, and prejudgment from pastoralist families, leading to a decrease in enrolment rates.
In response to these barriers, CIFF implemented the Tayari scheme, which helped to benefit children aged 3 to 6 who were given an improved early years education through the further training of teachers, health interventions, and allowed for a more child-centered approach in the classroom. This was ultimately helped by the use of low-cost learning materials for both students and teachers. Overall, Tayari as an educational scheme works well in ensuring children get a better quality of early years education. In response to this, we believe it should continue to be funded by CIFF to further benefit children from a low-income background in Kenya. Another key element of Kenya's early years educational system is in the inclusion of agricultural learning, which we feel should remain a key part of the curriculum as children begin to prepare for work in a majority rural community. In turn, increasing the standards of education and including agricultural learning, the poverty rate in Kenya will ultimately lower through better qualifications for work. Thank you for listening.